My name's Sam. I'm the Partnerships and Communications Manager at Fairygodboss. Fairygodboss is the largest career community for women, and our mission is to improve the workplace for women by increasing transparency. And we offer a variety of free resources like anonymous company reviews, job listings, articles, virtual recruiting events, and more to help you succeed in your career. So before we get things started, we'll be taking questions at the end in the Q&A feature. You'll find it where you found the chat feature as well. You can also leave them in the chat. I'll be checking both, but the Q&A is the best way to make sure that we'll get to your question. So save those for the end. And then if you do want to chat throughout the webinar, feel free to leave comments in the chat and engage with other attendees. The webinar is also going to be recorded, and we'll send it out in a follow-up email later today so you can rewatch at any point if you missed something or just want to review it again. Here with me today is Dr. Ginny Barrow. Ginny is a high-integrity certified international executive coach, speaker, and #1 best-selling author of Fearless Women at Work. Today she serves as the CEO and founder of Executive Bound and Fearless Women at Work. Ginny is on a mission to populate the world with great leaders. She specializes in helping executives develop leaders, maximize performance, and increase profits. She also collaborates with talented individuals who are navigating a corporate hierarchy or transitioning into a new phase of their professional careers. Thanks so much for being here today, Ginny.
It is my pleasure to join you, and I want to thank everyone for taking time today. This is your lunch hour for some of us here in the East Coast, so I appreciate that you put this on your calendar and that you showed up. So welcome, everybody. Samantha, I lost you.
I'm here. I just got rid of my video so it won't be too distracting.
Got it.
No worries.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to get started then. Excellent. Well, welcome everyone. And whether you are thinking about the C-suite for yourself today, if this is one of your aspirations, or whether you're here because you just want to hear what we're going to talk about, welcome either way. I never thought that I would be going into a C-suite position, and here I am. I am heading my own 2 brands, Executive Bound and Fearless Women at Work. And I want to share with you a few stories as we go through this, but welcome. And I hope that what I am going to share with you today is going to give you some tools and strategies that will help you no matter where you are in your career today. So I want to start by sharing some facts that I believe will be eye-opening for you. But before I do that, I want you to get very clear about why you joined us today. So I want you to jot down, write it down, type it out, whatever you want to do. What is your intention for being here with us today? If you have a question that you want to have answered before we conclude, I want you to write it down right now. I want you to share it in the chat if you want to, and let's make this as interactive as possible so that it's as pleasant for you as it is for me, okay? So what is your intention for being here? If you have something in mind, if you have a challenge, I want you to bring that up to us before you leave this call, before you leave our session. I want to start, as I mentioned, by sharing some facts. I always like to start with a macro view. I am an economist. That was one of my minors in college, so I am an economist at heart, even though I don't do that full time. And I want to share with you the findings, or the summary of the findings, of the Women in the Workplace study from 2019. When I wrote my book, Fearless Women at Work, I did a lot of extensive research around what is happening to women specifically as it relates to their leadership roles. I have been in technology and financial services and leadership for over 20 years. And I knew what it was like for me being there. I was usually the only woman in the room, as many times you've heard. And I wanted to do something about helping women ascend through the ranks. So this study is one that has been conducted now for 5 years. And here's where we are right now in 2020 or 2019 when the study was conducted. The good news is that women are being the percentage of women is increasing at every single level of management. So you can see from the left side, women in 2015, we only had 17% of women in the C-suite, and by 2019, we had 21%. Similarly, every other rank, entry-level, manager, senior manager, director, and the C-suite, all of them have increased in the last 5 years, 4 years, right? However, you can also see that we are underrepresented at each level. Now, the good news is that companies are adding more women to the C-suite, and you can see the numbers here. In 2015, we had 38% of the companies had 1 woman or less. And now in 2019, only 35% of companies have 1 woman or less. And the companies that have 3 women or more has increased from 29% to 44%. So that is the good news. However, the biggest obstacle women face today, according to the study, is at the first step of management. In other words, we are not getting promoted to managers fast enough. So this is where, no matter what level you're at right now, this is going to benefit you in terms of the training that we're going to do, because you're going to learn some of the mindsets that are going to help you position yourself powerfully to get to a manager level and then move forward beyond that. And then you're also going to learn how to articulate your value across the organization and with your centers of influence, and how to create and execute on your massive action map. So no matter where you are today on the map, if you're going to put your pin on the map, and then you're going to identify where you want to go, and then identify how to get there. That's what we're going to help you do. Now, back to the facts. The ratio of promotions to first level manager by gender are dismal, as you can see. For every 100 men who is promoted to management, only 72 women are promoted. And women of color and Latina women, as well as women with disabilities, are the ones that are in the worst situation when it comes to women getting promoted and going to that first level manager. So this is only to give you a big picture, the bird's eye view of where women stand today when it comes to ascending through the ranks. So if women are promoted and hired to first level managers at the same rates as men, we will add 1 million more women to management in corporate America over the next 5 years, which is promising. But I put in this slide for you, and you will have access to the deck. I put in this slide for you so that you can take this PowerPoint slide and share it with your team back in your organizations. The first steps companies can take to fix that broken wrong, that first level to management, and to get to gender parity in less than 100 years, is to set goals for getting more women into the first level management. So I know a lot of the focus has been on getting more women to the C-suite. But if we don't populate that pipeline, we're not going to have enough women going to the C-suite. It's also going to require companies to ask and demand to have that diverse slates for hiring and promotions. In other words, we have those at the more senior levels, but we don't have that at the beginning and mid-level management. We also need to put the evaluators, the people that are going through performance reviews, through unconscious bias training, and to establish clear evaluation criteria so that they're not subjective. And finally, we need to put more women in line to be managers. So this is a slide that I want you to take back to your companies. So before I go into the rest of the presentation, if there's nothing else that you remember about my presentation today, this is your takeaway. Become your best advocate. And I will share with you a story about how I've done that throughout my entire career. Secondly, articulate what you want and your value. And I'm going to help you get clear on what is your unique value proposition, and then how to articulate your value to your centers of influence and the people in your network and your mentors and your sponsors. And finally, what's going to be crucial for you to make it to the C-suite or advance in your career, no matter where you are, is to obsess on contributing at your full potential. when we're done, I'm your coach right now. When we are done, you are going to learn that settling for what people or the box that we get put in is not going to get us what we want. Saying that this is good enough for me is not going to do it. It's going to require for you to become obsessed with reaching your full potential. And at every level that you're at, you're always going to know what to do next to get to that potential once you go through this training. So for today, we're going to cover how to develop a growth mindset that is going to support your growth no matter where you are, how to assess your unique value and strengths, and how to execute on your personalized action map, which implies that you have one. So I don't know, if you do, can you put in the chat box if you have a personal action plan for 2020? Let me know if you do in the chat. All right, so I want to share with you also, before I dive into the training, that Fairygodboss, I want to appreciate them for partnering with me to give you this content and to share this with you and add value to you and your career. We are gifting you a private page on my website, Executive Bound, and I'll tell you exactly how to get there. And on that private page, you're going to have this PowerPoint deck in a PDF. You're going to have your personalized workbook, which is going to have the exercises to identify what kind of mindset you have, your unique value proposition, and the exercises to create and execute on your massive action map. I'm also going to share with you some of my favorite videos and my books. And you're going to have this page up until February 14th, which is Valentine's Day. So I hope you like this. Let me know if you like this in the chat box, please. All right, so let me share with you how I became my best advocate. Today, I am an executive coach, leadership coach, career strategist, motivational speaker. But back when I was in high school, the idea that I would be making a living doing what I'm doing right now was completely out of the realm of possibilities for me back then. See, I'm an immigrant. I came to the United States when I was 14 years old. I grew up in a small village near Haiti in the Dominican Republic, and my family was poor. When I was 14, my mom had moved to the United States, and I came a few years after she came. And when I got to the US, it was a new country, new language. My friends were left behind. I was starting from scratch, but I was so excited because I knew that I was going to get an opportunity to live my dream. My dream back then was to become a doctor. And I knew that back where I was, that was going to be impossible. And also my why back then was to break the cycle of poverty for me, for myself, and for my future generations. So starting from scratch at 14, I knew that I had to catch up with the rest of my peers. And as immigrants, my mother and I usually have people make fun of us, believe it or not, this is back in the 80s. And I remember one time vividly when we were at a McDonald's, out of all places. And the woman my mom was up at the register paying. And when she finished paying, the attendant looked at her peer and said, "She's stupid. She doesn't speak English." And I remember how angry when I heard that, how angry it made me. And I became obsessed with learning English as fast as I could. And I did that by diving into everything that I could read. I attended summer schools, and I basically, follow every advice that my guidance counselor gave me in terms of programs to join. All that hard work paid off. And I graduated high school in the regular English program, third in my class. And I also passed my college admission exams, which meant that I would be the first person in my family to attend and graduate from college. And that to me was priceless. So I went through my years of college struggling because I had been in the country for 4 years. And I did graduate with a computer science degree and a minor in economics. And then I started my full career. And when I started my full-time professional career is when I learned what it was like to advocate for yourself. Every single manager that I had, I always asked the question, what do I need to do to get to my next level? How do I add the most value? So notice that my question was always around not what can you do for me, but what can I do for the company, and how can I reach my fullest potential in my role? And my managers always gave me advice. After I graduated, I knew that I wanted to put keys in my pocket so that I could open different doors. And I didn't want to be pigeonholed as a technologist. So I went and I got my MBA. Now, how did I do that? I worked full-time during the day and I went to school at night 2 nights a week, Mondays and Wednesdays or Tuesdays and Thursdays, until I got 4 years later my MBA in management. When I did that, I then applied for a managerial role and I got my first manager role in 1997 at Alliance Bernstein. It was back then, it was called Alliance. And when I got to that role, I dove in with both feet and I did everything that I could to add the most value in my role. The other thing that I did to advocate for myself is I always developed relationships with my manager. My manager and I were never transactional. It was always very professional, but I got to know them, they got to know me, and that way they understood where I was coming from. And I vocalized, I articulated that I wanted to grow, that I wanted to keep learning. So I went from being a programmer to being a systems manager to then joining a couple of years later. I had an opportunity through a friend. I was networking and she told me about this job as a project manager at an asset management firm at the time. And that's where I spent the next almost 17 years of my career, growing, developing, adding value, creating relationships, and always asking, what do I need to do to get to my next level? How can I add the most value? All along, it was for me about building relationships. A lot of us are transactional. We meet people, we get what we want, we give them what they ask for, and we move on. So I want to ask you, how much time are you spending cultivating your network? And I'm going to talk about that. But how much time are you spending cultivating your network? Excuse me. Many of us claim that we are too busy. Ginny, I have my job to do. There's nothing else that I can possibly put on my plate. Maybe you have a family, you have kids, you have a husband or a wife or a partner, and you're like, Ginny, I am doing the best I can do with my time. And I will challenge you as you coach and say, and you also have to eat. So if you have to eat, schedule a lunch meetup with somebody in your company. Ask somebody else in another department, what do you do? How do you do it? What's important about your job? Especially if it has something to do with your role. You want to develop relationships and get to know people, because as a leader, that's how we lead, engage, and influence others. And when they get to know us and trust us, they're more likely to work with us and support us in whatever thing that we're working on, whatever project we're doing. So that's my little story around how to advocate for yourself. When I left the corporate world 3 years ago, I did that because I knew that I wanted to reach my full potential, and I felt that I had reached the end of that path where I was. And that's when I decided to take my 20s.
Hey, Jenny, you still there? It looks like your screen has frozen, so if you want to jump out and jump right back in, we'll give you a minute to do so. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. Just one moment. Hey, there you are.
Hello, I'm sorry about that. I lost my internet connection, guys.
No worries, not a problem at all. I absolutely hate when that happens.
Okay, so everybody's still here?
Yeah, we're all good to go on our end.
All right, let me just get back to my slide. Okay, here we go, guys. Back where we were.
Perfect.
Let's see, let me just, okay, there we go. So let's dive right into our develop a growth mindset and what that means and why it's important for you, no matter where you are. By the way, can you type into the chat box where you are in the management levels? Are you entry level, mid level? Are you senior level leader right now? Where are you as it relates to you wanting to get to the C-suite? Can you hear me, Samantha?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for everybody to type in. It looks like we have Alina, who is a director, somebody else, senior director, just below VP, few entry level, working at mid-level to entry-level pay, senior manager, entry-level, mid-level, contractor, director, consultant, manager, mid-level, director, just below executive director, and CEO. It looks like we have everybody kind of everywhere.
Excellent. No, this is really good to know. And this is really good feedback for me as I present this information, because I can put it right. I can frame it so that it serves everybody here. So developing a growth mindset. And by the way, everything that I'm teaching you today, you can apply to your teams. Okay. So as I'm going through this training with you, imagine you teaching this to your team and the impact that it would have on them and how it would help you have an impact on them. So developing a growth mindset is going to be essential for any of us in this audience as we look to develop and grow. And I'm going to tell you what a growth mindset is. According to the Neuro Leadership Institute, a mindset is ways of thinking about the goals you pursue. Your mindset determines what kinds of information you focus on, the pile of stuff that's missing or the pile of stuff that's there, how your brain handles errors and mistakes. Do you beat yourself up when you make a mistake, or do you see that as a way to grow and learn? And how you interpret successes and failures. So here's an example of what people with a growth mindset believe. They believe that skills and abilities can be improved. And by the way, the concept of the growth mindset was developed by psychologist Carol Dweck. So people with a growth mindset believe skills and abilities can be improved versus, oh, you know what, that's just the way she is, she's never going to improve. That's a fixed mindset, but we'll talk about it more. People with a growth mindset see change as a challenge. So when you can't get something to work, you see, now I'm really in because I'm going to make this work. They also find new ways to take constructive action. So when they hit a roadblock, instead of quitting, they actually say, how else can I make this happen? And they also look for opportunities to learn. So you've been hearing a lot about fail fast. Well, the idea behind that is that when you fail fast, you can look for another solution instead of getting stuck on, well, we want to get this done, but we can't. And so there you go. And finally, people with a growth mindset see potential in themselves and others. If you are a leader, or if you're starting your leadership career and you believe that other people cannot grow and learn, are you going to develop them? Are you going, even the way that you approach them is going to be very different than if you believe that people can improve. So if you have an employee who's not performing well, you're not going to give up on them. You're going to coach and mentor them and put in place the steps so that they can improve. On the opposite side of the spectrum, fixed mindset people believe that talent and intelligence can't be changed. They see change as a threat, and you may be one of them. There's many of us that have a fixed mindset. When something's changing around the organization, we flip out. We always think, that's it, it's over. Versus saying, hey, maybe this is an opportunity for me. Maybe I can find a new place. Maybe I can transfer to a different department and I can learn something new. People with a fixed mindset also experience highly negative emotions because they're constantly doing analysis in their head, and most likely the analysis is making them conclude negative things. Because of this, all this capacity, mental capacity being occupied on negative emotions, they learn at a slower rate. And they tend to judge and evaluate their performance as a test of competence and worth. So when they make a mistake, they think, I suck, and their worth and their confidence takes a hit. So I'm going to give this for you as homework. This is a checklist. I want you to go through this checklist after you go through this training and check off the things that are true for you in terms of, this is true for me. You know, I avoid challenges, I hide my mistakes, I stick to what I already know. I don't want to, go into anything new. I give up quickly because I get frustrated. So go through this list and let's get honest. And in your workbook, I'm also going to help you look at what is your current mindset, and most importantly, how can you shift it so that you can learn and grow towards the C-suite or any other level that you want within the organization. I'm also going to give you this list as homework for developing a growth mindset. So I'm not even going to cover this. This is going to be in your workbook. Before we move on from talking about your mindset, which I believe is about 80% of the fight, I'm not kidding you. If you have the right mindset, you already have 80% of all that you want to do accomplished. The rest 20% is really tactical. It's really, how do I do it? It's strategy. But if you don't have the mindset and the psychology to drive you and to fuel you every single day, doesn't matter how much strategy you have, you're not going to make it. So this is why I'm spending the time talking about mindset. And I want to share with you a quote by a fellow coach that is going to speak to how viewing change from a growth mindset could really make a big difference. Samantha, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Samantha,
I can hear you all right.
Okay, I'm just checking because I get this note that my internet connection is unstable. So I just want to make sure.
Nope,
So
you're still in.
Okay, great. So this is the quote by Cynthia Ocelli, and it says, for a seed to achieve its greatest expression, it must come completely undone. The shell cracks, its insides come out, and everything changes. For someone who doesn't understand growth, it would look like complete destruction. This is a perfect analogy to how you changing and evolving into the leader that you want to become has to be seen from your perspective, as something organic versus a disaster. Things are changing around me. Okay, so type something in the chat box and let us know what you thought about this segment on mindset and what is your current perspective, even if it's just one word out of all that I shared just now. What is the one word that pops into your head? All right, so let's talk about assessing your unique value and strengths, and I'm keeping my eye on the clock as well. This is going to be important, and I want you to know, and this is going to be part of your workbook, how to identify what makes you uniquely you. And why is this important? You're going to have people in your company that are doing the exact same job you're doing. You may have, depending on your company, right? You may have somebody else who has the same title as you. And I want you to walk away from this training knowing that no one in the world is going to do what you do, even when they have the same title in the same way that you do it, for these 3 reasons. Your unique value proposition has 3 key components. The first is your why. What's important to you, what drives you, what makes you tick, what makes you get up every day, every morning. And your workbook is going to give you this amazing exercise called the 7 levels, where you're going to identify your why, your purpose, your meaning. And we hear this word as a buzzword, right? Like, what's my purpose? Well, after you answer these questions, at the end of that, you're going to have what is your big why today. Now, my why changed from when I was in high school, that I wanted to break the cycle of poverty, right? To now that I'm running my own business and I'm looking to scale it, and I'm looking to have the biggest impact and to populate the world with great leaders, because my basic needs have been met. Now I'm at the point of contribution. So your why is going to change over time. But the next component of your unique value proposition is your superpowers. These are the things that you're great at. You can do them in your sleep. If somebody were to ask you, so Ginny, or your name, what would your best friends say are some of your superpowers? And when you tell them what some of your friends would say, usually you come up with a list of things that people would tell you. You're great at planning, you're a strategic thinker, you are fun, or you are somebody who can see the big picture, right? What are your superpowers? That's going to be part of your workbook. And finally, what are your marketable skills? And I find that your marketable skills are usually the most straightforward, because that's what's on your resume, right? That's if you're a salesperson, if you're an investor, if you are a portfolio manager, if you are a technologist, if you are in, sales, whatever it is that you do, those are your marketable skills. But when you combine all of these 3, your purpose, what you're great at, and your marketable skills, the intersection of those 3 things is your unique value proposition. And when you think about it that way, what are the chances that someone else in your company or outside or anywhere else in the world will do what you do with the same purpose as you, with your same superpowers, and with your same marketable skills? The truth is, my friends, that your unique value proposition is as unique as your fingerprints. And when you look at yourself from that angle, you are unstoppable, because no one else can copy you. You got it? How does that resonate with you when I share that? Can you put that in the chat? What is the impression that you get when you hear that your unique value proposition is as unique as your fingerprints? Let us know.
Hey, Ginny, sorry,
Yes.
just jumping in because somebody had an interesting question. If
Sure.
you wouldn't mind sharing, they asked what your unique value proposition is.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So my why is to populate the world with great leaders, and for me to tap into my full potential, to help my son tap into his, and to help my clients tap into theirs. That's my why. My superpowers is that I have this ability to connect with people in person, to connect with them when I speak, and to speak to them from a place of authenticity, which is, this is who I am. I'm not pretending to be anyone that I'm not. And I have a lot to offer, right? And I have an intuition that I bring into my conversations. I have a sense for what people are feeling. I'm an empath. And when I'm interacting with people, I'm building relationships, which is one of my superpowers, building relationships. I'm able to use that intuition to tap into people and to really feel them and feel what they're going through. And as I have conversations, I'm able to truly connect with them on a deep level. And I'm very strategic. I have this ability to see and connect dots. So I can go zoom out and look at the big picture of things, and then zoom in, and I could be tactical. So I have the ability to be strategic and tactical at the same time, and to be able to connect the dots. So when I'm coaching my clients and when I'm speaking and people ask me questions, when I ask them questions to get more clarification, I'm able to connect dots for them that they can even see because they're in the soup. So my marketable skills is I spent most of my career as a technologist running projects. So I am a project manager at heart. I can do project management until the cows come home. I love it. I enjoy it. I'm a planner. So when you combine my why of wanting to populate the world with great leaders and help people tap into their potential, because as I do that, I tap into mine. When I tap into my intuition and my ability to connect with people, and then my ability to plan and create projects, and also part of my superpowers is that I really enjoy travel, and what brings you joy is part of your superpowers. When I put all that together, I am living my unique value proposition, doing what I'm doing now as an executive coach, leadership coach, career strategist, motivational speaker, and #1 best-selling author. And I couldn't be happier. But I have to tell you, my experiences through the corporate world and my corporate background is what allows me to do the job that I'm doing now to the best of my ability. And I couldn't really ask for anything else. I don't regret. If anything, I am very grateful for that background, because now I get to serve people like you, and you know that I understand where you're coming from because I've walked in your shoes. So that's my unique value proposition. Thank you so much for asking. So as you get clear on your unique value proposition, you're going to be able to articulate it to others, and we'll talk about your centers of influence and how to use that. So do you see how you could begin to position yourself more powerfully now that you will be understanding what is my unique value proposition within the organization? And then how do I use it to add the most value? No one is hiring us for anything else other than we are there to do a job. They need us to contribute our unique value proposition to increase profits, to have the biggest impact, to change lives, whatever your company's mission is. So when we start thinking about what can the company do for me, and instead focus on what can I do for the company, and I'm going to put myself in the position where I can make the biggest impact, my friends, that's when you will soar through the organization. As long as you're thinking about your salary increase and your promotion, and that's your main focus versus what can I do to move forward the mission of this organization. Once you make that shift in perspective and you begin to be your best advocate and you understand your value and you articulate it and you don't say no to maximizing your potential and you don't compromise maximizing your potential, that's when you begin to accelerate through the ranks. And so I want to give you this tool, which is called a SWOT analysis. How many of you, just let me know in the chat, how many of you have used the SWOT analysis in business? A lot of people have, but they normally haven't used it in the context of their own lives. So I want to show you how to use a SWOT analysis so that when you write down, what is my next goal? Okay, what is my next goal? And I'm sorry, my slides just moved. When you think about what is my next goal, write that down for yourself. And then I want to take you through, and I'm going to walk you through this in your workbook because we don't have time to do it here, on how to do this. So I'm going to just highlight, right, the questions that you're going to find in your workbook. So you identify what is the one career goal that you have right now. And then you're going to align through a SWOT analysis. So this is what you're going to answer. What are your strengths around this goal? Let's say that you are in a level position and you want to become a director, you're a director or senior director, and you want to go forward to the C-suite. Samantha, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Oh, okay, you're back. You froze for a second, but I can hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay. I just got the sign again that my internet was unstable. All right. So if you're looking to go from middle management to senior to a director or senior director to a SVP or to the C-suite, that is your goal, let's say. So what are your strengths around that? Are you an SME? Do you have are you currently in a line role that leads to that path? That's another one of the reasons why women are not making it to the C-suite as fast, because we're usually in staff roles or support roles versus those roles that lead to the C-suite. So I'm going to ask you, if you want to get to a destination and you get in your car unless you have the address in there, you're not going to get to your destination. So similarly, if you're in a role that when you look at how do people get to the C-suite, ask the question, what was the path that someone took to get there? You need to begin to put yourself in those roles from the beginning, right? So that you can be one of the people in line in that pipeline to get to a C-suite level. So what are your strengths around that? Similarly, what are your weaknesses or the areas that you need to improve? And I'm going to help you walk through that with really specific questions, sub-questions, I should say, under each of these. Finally, what are your opportunities? How can you leverage the current situation that you're in to create opportunities that will lead you towards that destination and that goal that you want? And what are your threats? What are the obstacles? For a lot of people, and I think some of you will relate to this, the issue with us is that when we get out of college, we're like gung-ho, we're like a horse, getting ready to go down that racetrack, and we are ready to go. We are rearing to go. However, as the years go by, we become more complacent, more comfortable. We've been, we have life to take care of. Then we get married, or we have a partner and we have children, or we have problems in our lives. And you know what? I just don't have time for that. I'm too tired. I get home and I just want to rest. And so what happens to us is that we lose sight of the goal of that, right? We just lose sight of it and we get so distracted with life. And then in about our 40s or 50s, we wake up and we go, what is happening here? What happened? My life just happened and I wasn't even here. So many of my clients are in that phase where they're waking up to say, wait a minute, I want to reach my potential. I don't feel fulfilled. I want to get my house in order. I want to strengthen my career. I want to advance. I want to make more money. I want to have more impact. I want to have more influence in my life and in the life of others. So we tend to take a back seat. That's one of our biggest threats and obstacles, that we deprioritize ourselves and we deprioritize our dreams, and we basically get complacent and give up. And I know that I may be sounding harsh, but I'm saying it from a place of love, which is we need to wake up, because no one has the responsibility to take care of our careers. I know if we are in good hands and if we are good managers, we will be taking care of our employees and making sure that they have a career track. But come on, let's be real. How many people actually have that, where somebody is hand-holding you and saying, Ginny, where would you like to take your career next? I mean, that just doesn't happen. So we need to become our advocate in knowing what is the destination that we want. And then what do I need to, first of all, many of us worry about what to do. And I would say to you, let's reframe that question and say, who do you need to become to get to the C-suite? Who do you need to become to get to your next level? And then the who you need to become means you need to be differently. You need to show up differently, more committed, more determined, more self-aware of what you're doing, and then to be able to self-manage through what you're feeling, and then to build relationships and take care of other people's needs. Not from a place of wanting approval from them, but from a place of having impact, okay, and contributing to them. So this is how you can do the SWOT analysis, and I'm going to walk you through that in the workbook. So speaking of charting your path, I've been speaking about developing relationships since I began, because this is, to me, this is where the gold mine is. None of those positions at the C-suite get filled with strangers. Everyone in a C-suite role has some type of relationship to the people that are in other C-suite roles at that company. It's either somebody recommended me or somebody said, you need to speak to Ginny. She's going to be great if you are looking for a C blank. And so identify your centers of influence, because if we're going to get to wherever we are or wherever we want to go from where we are, the people around us, and that's developing 360-degree relationships is all about, and spreading the word. The people around us, these are your peers, the people at your level, your manager, the person above you, and your manager's peers, believe it or not. Because when they're having conversations about who to promote, they're going to ask each other, hey, what do you think of Jenny? For this new role that we have open, or for this promotion, this new spot that opened up. They're going to ask each other. And if your manager's peers have had bad experiences dealing with you, do you think that they're going to give you a recommendation or a testimonial? So it's important that you not only know your manager and understand what your manager is and how you can influence and impact your manager by doing a great job and being aligned with his or her agenda, but also his or her peers. The reason why dealing with your peers is also, or developing those relationships and strong relationships with your peers is also important, is for the same reason. If management sees that you are not getting along with your peers, do you think that they're going to give you a promotion so that then you have trouble with your peers at that level? How you're showing up every single day is testimonial to your organization and the higher ups as to whether or not you're going to be a good fit for them in the culture. Now, that doesn't mean that it's on you, by the way. Sometimes you can be showing up fully and you can be showing up authentically and you're just not in a good culture. And at some point, you're going to need to make a decision, whether it's you or the culture. And you may decide that you're going to move companies. But until you show up fully and authentically, you will never know if the problem is the culture or you. And if you don't fix you, all you're going to change is geography. You're going to take yourself from where you are now to another place. So I always encourage my clients to work on what they need to work on, where they are, so that they can address the challenges that they're having, and now, because they're going to be popping up someplace else. And I need them to know how to handle themselves there or someplace or in another company. The other strong center of influence is your direct reports, people that you manage. So learn how to coach, mentor your teams and develop them. And look at those unconscious biases, because even we have them. We have them, meaning women have a lot of unconscious biases. I can't tell you how many women don't want to work for men, don't want to work for other women. They want to work for men because of the issues that people say that working for a woman presents. And so I don't have time to go into that, but I definitely talk about it in other venues. All right, so mentors, sponsors, clients, and stakeholders. These are also part of your centers of influence. And I know you probably heard a lot about mentors and sponsors. And the difference between the two is a mentor is somebody you trust, you can share anything with. A sponsor is somebody who is in a senior role that can actually give you a position and create a position for you. Now, sometimes, depending on your level, like I was a director and my manager was the CIO of the company. So he was both my mentor and my sponsor. And he gave me great opportunities based on what I articulated that I wanted to do with my career. Similarly, client and any other stakeholders that are part of your sphere, I encourage you, and I'm giving you tools to develop relationships with them. Finally, how do you execute on your massive action map? And I know we're coming up to 10 minutes before the hour, so I want to be respectful of your lunch time or your time and your calendar. So I want to just go through the key pieces of executing on your personalized action map. So here's how you create your action map. That's probably different than how you've done it in the past. So first of all, get clear on what it is that you want from a place of who do I want to become, all right? Then when do I want to do that? Because if I don't put something on my calendar, it's not going to happen. Who is going to support me as I go after this goal? What people, places, and organizations may help me achieve this goal? And then the how do I do it is more of the strategy around what do I do first, second, and third? How do I prioritize it? Because as Oprah Winfrey says, we can do it all, but not at once. So the action map that I'm sharing with you is going to help you prioritize. And then you got to break down a huge goal into its subcomponents, okay? Add to that, why is this goal important to me? How does it tie back to my why? And you already will know your why when you do these exercises. And how will you feel when you achieve it? When you associate an emotion to anything that you're doing, it's going to help you anchor it, and it's going to give it more meaning. That is going to result in your compelling vision and your 12-month action map. But how do you keep the momentum? This is something that I want to spend 1 minute with you on. Once you set out that you want to achieve this role, and this is why it's important, and this is how I'm going to feel when I accomplish it, and this is who, what, when, how, right? How do you keep the momentum? Because we know how crazy busy we get, and we know all the excuses that we come up with. Come on, ladies, raise your hand, or gentlemen, if you're joining us. How many people come up with excuses as to why they can't do what they're doing? So to keep the momentum, I'm inviting you to look at take this slide and print it and put it next to your PC, your laptop, whatever, where you're working. When you tap into your potential, you will know it. How will you know it? Because you will take action. And those actions are going to give you results. And those results are going to validate your mindset and your beliefs. They're going to give you certainty that what you're doing, that you're on the right track. When you feel that when you believe that what you're doing is the right thing, you're going to tap into more of your potential. You're going to take even more action, which is going to lead to even more results that are going to validate your belief that you are on the right track. And then you will create a positive, vicious loop. Unfortunately, the opposite is also true, my friends. When you tap a little bit into your potential, you take very little action, which lead to really bad results or poor results, which then validates your belief. You see, it's not working. And then you tap even less into your potential, take even less action, get even worse results, and validate your belief that, you see, it's not working. And then you create a negative, vicious cycle. So I'm inviting you to do this. Act, execute, take action. And that's how you know whether or not you're tapping into your potential. So as a recap, develop a growth mindset and help your team develop a growth mindset. We are living in a reskilling era. Technology-induced changes are changing industry forever. We are going to be required to upgrade and upscale our skills. 30% of the workforce is going to either have to change jobs or significantly upgrade their skill sets in the next 10 years. So a growth mindset is going to serve you in so many ways. Similarly, assess your value, understand it, know it, and have your elevator pitch, as they say. When somebody asks you, what do you do? Don't tell him what you do tactically. Tell them the impact you're going to have on the world. Tell them how your role in your company impacts the bottom line, not the fact that you generate a report every month. That's not compelling. So learn how to tell your story compellingly. And finally, execute on your personalized action map. If we leave this conversation, if everything goes in one ear and out the other, and you don't do anything with it, nothing's going to change. It's going to require for you to be very intentional about what you do after this in order for you to go after your dreams and actually make them happen. So there's a Japanese proverb that says, vision without action is a dream, and actions without vision is a nightmare. So let's get clear on that compelling vision, but let's put actions behind it. And by the way, visualization is a big tool too, because when we visualize what we want, we're telling our brain, our subconscious brain, through the reticular activating system, that what we're visualizing is important to us. And it will begin to filter through all kinds of things that are relevant to what we're visualizing. You know, when you look to buy a car, a certain type of car, and you begin to see that car everywhere, that's because your reticular activating system told your subconscious brain that that car was important to you. So similarly, visualize what you want and see yourself already there, having it, being it, but you have to have a plan to follow that up with. All right, my friends, so here's your next steps. Execute, write it in your calendar. Go to your private page, which is executivebound.com, Fairygodboss. Download this presentation, download your workbook and exercises, take some free assessments. I have a Myers-Briggs assessment and DISC assessment there for you for free. And then join my Executive Bound community to receive additional support, tools, and strategies. When you go to my website, you will get a pop-up. And if you sign up to join my community, I will send you emails with blogs that I write, additional tools and strategies to support you as you move up and as you go through the different levels in the organization. And finally, I wouldn't be serving you today if I didn't invite you to join me at the fearlessleadershipmastermind.com. Starting January 20th, which is Monday, I'm going to be launching my leadership training, where I'm going to walk you through. It's going to be 100% virtual, but I'm going to spend 12 weeks walking through with you how to harness your personal power and how to develop self-leadership, which everything that you're going to go through in terms of ascending through the ranks in your organization or someplace else is going to require you to be self-leader. That's how I got to where I am today, and that's how I help my clients get from where they are to where they want to be. So check it out at fearlessleadershipmastermind.com. I would love to meet you. I would love to see you there, and I would love to support you as you move up and as you reach your next level and your full potential. So let's take some questions, Samantha.
Hi, thank you so much for that presentation. It was really great. So I saw a few questions come in while we were doing the presentation, so I'll get to as many as possible. But you'll see in the chat, I just sent a link. Ginny has a Fairygodboss group, so you can also go there, leave questions if we don't get to them today, and she'll answer them there. So one question that came in was somebody wants to know what the difference is between a unique value proposition and your elevator speech, or if there even is a difference.
No, so basically what you do is you use your unique value proposition to create your elevator speech. So you use one to create the other. So in other words, the elevator speeches that most people write are kind of, But when you know your unique value proposition, you can create a very succinct sentence about, so when people say to me, what do? You know what I tell them? My job is to populate the world with great leaders. And then they say, oh, tell me more. And then I tell them more. But that came from me knowing my unique value proposition.
Okay, another question with the unique value proposition. I know my unique value proposition, but how do I get others to see it? And I think they want to know how they get others to see it without even telling them. How do you just get other people to see it?
Okay, the biggest myth in the world is that we want people to see us for who we are, right? We shouldn't have to open our mouth to say anything. They should see how good I am. They should see how much I work. They should see how devoted I am. And my answer to that is BS, okay? This is why people are too busy dealing with their own life, managing their own career, getting themselves to the next level. So it is our responsibility as leaders, as women, to share with people how we're contributing. That's how we share it. We don't go to someone and say, hey, Samantha, guess what I did? Or hey, Samantha, notice what I do. No, you say, hey, Samantha, you know that we just finished this amazing project where because of that project, now we reduced the wait time from 3 days to minutes. That's how we share our value with our centers of influence, by sharing what we've accomplished on behalf of the company. Because ultimately, it's not about you, my dear. As much as I wanted to say that it's about you, it's about the bottom line.
That's really great advice. And that's something that a few people were talking about in the comments I saw, was this person had many discussions about their UVP, but they felt uncomfortable talking about themselves in that way. They felt like it was bragging. And I feel like, you're the expert here, but I feel like a lot of that just comes down to changing your mindset around talking about your accomplishments.
I appreciate that, right? Because we were raised to be humble, to not toot your own horn, right? That's how we were raised. So I want to shift that, because when you look at it from that perspective, you're thinking, yeah, I'm bragging. No, we don't want to brag. That's obnoxious. Don't ever be obnoxious. You won't make it. We know people that have made it who are obnoxious, but don't go that route.
Too funny. Okay, we're just about out of time, but I did see one comment come through. I just want to get to it quickly because I really like this question. Carrie says, I just finished my MBA and been told I need to start at the bottom in a different department before I can get into leadership. But what are your thoughts about that? Does she actually have to go back to the bottom?
Absolutely not. Tell her that you can use your experiences up to now and your MBA to get to an entry-level managerial role. Period.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much, Ginny. This was a really great
Thank you,
presentation.
everyone. And my apologies for the technical difficulties, but thank you for hanging in there. And I look forward to meeting you and see if we could still continue to go through this journey together.
Yes, just a reminder to everybody, we'll be sending out the recording as well as links to everything Ginny had in her presentation later today. And I hope you all have a great rest of your week. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.